Welcome in to another new AMP podcast. I'm your host, Ben Dubose, and I'm the news editor with the AMP publications team. Today, we've got a panel discussion for you about the upcoming AMP Advocacy Day in May, I believe from the 15th to the 16th in Washington, D.C. And I'm thrilled to introduce our distinguished guest to talk about that a bit more. We've got Kimberly Joy Harris, a member and officer on the AMP board of directors and a longtime project leader in the energy industry. We've got Elaine Bowman, project manager for the AMP Impact Plus audit program and a past president of NACE International. And finally, we have Tim Gonzalez, director of corporate outreach and advocacy at AMP. That's the very brief high-level overview, but I'm sure our guests can naturally elaborate a bit more regarding their career journeys and accomplishments, as well as what's led them to their current roles with AMP and the broader industry today. So, Kimberly, as far as introductions, let's start with you. For any viewer or listener that's not aware, can you give us a little bit of background as to your career and your journey thus far?
Yes, thank you so much. I am Kimberly Joy Harris, and I am a 30-plus year member with AMP International, as well as an industry professional. Majority of my career I have served in a leadership role, overseeing integrity and corrosion programs that are related to coatings, internal corrosion, external corrosion, working on database and technology development. So very much engaged in the industry. Recently received an Unexpected Lifetime Achievement Award that I'm so thankful and blessed to have received. And that's a quick brief of my introduction. Thank you.
And congratulations on that award, by the way.
Thank you.
Elaine, we'll transition to you. Can you tell us a little bit about your story?
Thank you, Ben. As Ben pointed out, I am a past president of NACE International, so that's probably one of the highlights of my corrosion career. Like Kimberly, I'm also a 30-plus year member of AMP and previously NACE, so have served on a number of committees and the boards of that organization. From a career standpoint, I spent those 30 years in specialty chemicals as they apply to pipelines for internal corrosion. So that would be my area of corrosion expertise. My interest in the legislative day dates to the fact that I am also the chair of the Corrosion and Coatings PAC for AMP International. So thank you for allowing me to be here today, Ben.
Absolutely. We're thrilled to have you. And we can wind down our introductions with Tim. And obviously, Tim is going to represent the staff perspective on a lot of things related to Advocacy Day. But Tim, if you could, after you introduce yourself, just give a little bit of general background as to what Advocacy Day is and why it's such a priority within not only your role at AMP, but let's be honest, the association as a whole.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. So a little bit about myself. I have nearly 20 years experience in industry association work, working in different aspects from certification, standards development, marketing, business development, and now doing advocacy and corporate outreach. So I'm really proud to be part of AMP and working alongside with these industry professionals like Elaine and Kimberly Joy, just to help promote what we're doing. In regards to what AMP's Advocacy Day is and why it's important, it's really an opportunity for AMP and its members to come together and really showcase what we do and what we do best, and really help to educate our elected officials and Congress and different members of the Congress and Senate on how important the work that we do impacts infrastructure and assets, not just here domestically in the United States, but globally as well.
And just to be clear, this year it's May 15th and 16th, and more information as far as specifics is available through, I believe, the government affairs page on the amp.org website, correct?
That is correct. And you are able to actually go in and set up. They'll give you a brief information on what it covers, and then you can actually register on the website and give your information. And then we can follow up and give you some updates and whatnot.
Awesome. All right, so with those introductions complete and with a little bit of background on Advocacy Day going in, let's move on to our more specific topics. I think we're going to divide this pod into basically two parts, initially focusing on some questions for member leaders that are a bit more broad and bigger picture, and then following up with some staff questions that have a bit more specificity to them. I think Kimberly will often address things from a member leader perspective, Tim from, as mentioned, the staff perspective, and then Elaine, a little bit of both, since her role is something of a hybrid. That said, we do want this to be an open forum discussion, so even if you're not the primary person responding, feel free to add input anywhere you like. As far as questions for our member leaders, I want to start with a fairly broad one for Kimberly. Can you just share your initial thoughts as far as the importance of participating in this advocacy day? And broadly speaking, how does advocating at the government level ultimately impact our industry?
Yes, thank you so much, Ben. For me, I've been participating in Advocacy Day for probably close to 10 years. And I've always enjoyed the fact that I think in this country, and probably rare around the world, we do have an opportunity to sit down with our Congress and our Senate staff and discuss, for this example, infrastructure. I also discuss things that are involved in my community. So being involved gives us that opportunity to really speak about what we do and how we impact the environment, quality of life, corrosion prevention. As an owner-operator, leadership role, working for a major oil and gas company for my entire career. I work directly with the regulations. I work directly with the technical training aspects of it, certification, R&D, and share that with individuals that are new into the industry, and even some that have been around for a little while. So having this opportunity to sit down at Advocacy Day really gives us a chance to share that information with not only our local representatives, but I try to venture out and speak to, when I can, representatives that are in states that are not my home state, particularly because our pipeline systems flow through their respective states and communities. And so that's the big part of, an important part about being involved in this, because it does give us a voice into an industry that we represent so well, and we try to represent very well. And I think that's very important. And it's, like I said, it's a very unique and rare opportunity that I don't think a lot of countries, the constituents, have a chance to really sit down in the office with staff and our representatives. And so in my opinion, it's advocating at this level is very impactful, because like I said, it does give us a voice, and it gives us a chance to even speak further into the training aspects and material selection aspect of what we do for infrastructure and that alike.
So next on my list, I was going to ask you what motivated you in the past to take part, but I think you already answered that to a degree. So let me follow up with something a little more specific. Can you give us some examples as to some memorable interactions, maybe one or two that you've had with a legislator or perhaps a staff member of that legislator? Can you just provide us with a little bit of concrete examples of the types of things that go on in areas in which someone participating can make an impact?
Yes, and there's so many I could probably come up with off the top of my head. But I will say one of the more memorable ones were sitting down in the representative office in his quarters and really explaining to him about what we do from a AMP NACE International standpoint, as well as an operator, what we do. And hearing them say that it sounds very important and that they fully support the effort, and what can they do to help. And so hearing someone say that that's at that level is very, very, very heart-wrenching, and it really puts us in the motivation factor of, yes, you know, this trip here to Washington wasn't in vain. And they also they always give us a chance to follow up with them in their home office. So that's probably, you know, a couple, two or three tied into one, as well as, like I said, sitting in office and representatives that are not my home state, but states that our system flow through, or that I've driven through, having worked in pretty much every state in the U.S. And you come across bridges and highways that you really can help them to see that we do notice this and we do have an impact, and we can help share and educating on the best way to sustain the infrastructure and or repair it. So, and then also there's been several times of if the representatives are in the office at the time, they're not on the floor voting, they're always so happy and willing to see us there that they will sit down with us, like I said, and take us into their quarters and have, you know, one-on-one discussions with us. And I'm very encouraged by the staff, because they, believe it or not, they do their homework as well. So when we arrive and we speak about what we're representing and what we're trying to convey, they ask some very pointed questions back to us. So the whole experience is very exciting. And like I said, I've always been engaged in my community. I'm continue to be engaged in the community. But when you sit down with people that also represent the community at a bigger level and willing to listen to what we have to say, it's just, like I said, it's just so heart-wrenching. And it makes us, definitely realize that we're not here in vain. There is truly a purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next question, I want to get input from both you, Kimberly, and Elaine as well. But let's start with Kimberly. You've been in a lot of these meetings over the years. What is the preparation process like? And based on your experience, what advice would you give someone that's perhaps attending it for the first or second time as to how they can best prepare to be ready for those types of situations?
That's a great question, man. For me, I look at what the matter at hand is during that fiscal year, or something that I see that maybe have carried over and have not seen follow-up. So again, I mentioned about noticing the environment, noticing what's going on with our bridges and our highways, noticing what's going on as it relates to anything that's infrastructure. And I read up on that respective the representative that I'm going to be sitting in the office with, so that I can make sure that I can bring to their awareness of my observations in their respective communities as a constituent, and even a non-constituent in some cases. And so my preparation is really centered around, okay, what's going on right now? What's going on in my state, in my village? I live in a village, and what's going on in the Midwest, and then what's going on across the country. And make note of that. And when I visit that representative in their office, staff or representative alike, I can help tie it home to them of what they may or may not have noticed, or they may have noticed but don't know the best way to approach it. So that's a lot of my preparation is really sitting down with, okay, who am I going to be meeting with that's been assigned to me, but also, if time permits, who can I do a cold call with that may not be on my list, but I've, again, working for an owner-operated pipeline company, that I've noticed that there's some impact that we can help them in their respective state with.
And Elaine, the same question to you, both in regards to the overall preparation process and what's that like, as well as some tips for newcomers who may be doing this for the first time.
Yeah, thank you, Ben. And Kimberly covered it pretty well. Several things that I would add to it. First of all, our staff sends out a packet of material that is very comprehensive. So for someone that's brand new, they're going to get a lot of material that you want to ensure that you not just peruse it, but read it, and become very familiar with it, because it's going to include my number two point, that you want to ensure that you're familiar with legislation that is going to be impacted, to our whole association. So that will come in the material you're going to get. I always go to the Public Affairs and Advocacy website, the part of AMP, the website. It also covers those very same things. So go and look there and read and understand about all the different pieces of legislation. That where are they, right now, that's whether they're in the House or whether they're in the Senate. So you'll be familiar with that when you go into those offices. And then for me, I like to know that, like Kimberly, who I'm assigned to, I want to know what committees they're on, so that I can touch on what types of things that are hot buttons for them. For example, the congressman in my area is on the Transportation Committee. It happens to be pipelines. So that's very, very good for us, but I also know those are things that he's going to be very interested in. Like Kimberly, some of the other congressional folks that we call on I'm not in their district, but I want to know whether they're on military or, what their hot buttons are, so that I can ensure whether it's them or their staff that I'm speaking to, that it's going to be something that they're interested in, and it's going to help them remember who we are.
Following up on that, I think both of your answers, the heart of the matter is information gathering. And learning what's going on in the industry and having a good understanding prior to your trip to DC as to what the hot button issues are that these legislators and or their staff members can potentially be of greatest assistance to us on. But sort of the fact finding, the information gathering, that's just the first part. The second part of that is the actual communication process. So from your experience, Elaine, how can someone best convey the message of corrosion control and coatings protection to these key legislators and their influencers as well when we talk about the staff members? From your experience, what are the challenges when it comes to advocating for our industry and actually getting that message out, and how can someone overcome those?
That's a really good question, because corrosion is not a topic like hunger or like some of the really soft, touchy-feely kinds of things that we all relate to. So it's not a topic that's easy for someone to understand. So I like to give them real life examples. And pretty much everyone in Washington, D.C. is familiar with Flint, Michigan. They're going to understand, that what happened to the children there.
Yep.
They're going to understand the causes to people. What does corrosion cause to, it could cause to you or your neighbor. So I always like to use that Flint, Michigan example. I like to use the example of the Arlington Memorial Bridge. That was something, that everybody in Washington, D.C. knows the historic nature of that bridge. They know the issues of when it was closed down. They know, you relate it, whether they know it was caused by corrosion or not, you can remind them that it was. So I like to relate it to something that they can relate to. Perhaps internal pipeline corrosion. Kimberly and I know that very, very well, but perhaps the staff people that we're talking to don't. So getting it down to an example that they understand usually works pretty well for me.
That makes sense. All right, let's try and get a little more specific. And Tim, we can bring you in here. As far as items that are specifically going to be on the agenda in 2024, I know there's some key pieces of legislation that are particular points of emphasis this year. One is the Bridge Corrosion Prevention and Repair Act. Can you discuss the significance of that and other specific pieces of legislation that you're focused on this year, or that we're focused on when we talk about AMP as an industry body and an association?
Yes, absolutely. So the Bridge Corrosion and Prevention and Repair Act was introduced to both the House and the Senate last year, later part of last year. And this is incredibly significant because it's really all about ensuring the safety of our bridges. And it's really vital for all of our communities across this country. I mean, we use bridges on a daily basis. Take example, the Fern Hollow Bridge in Pittsburgh. The impact of corrosion on the bridge safety was very evident there, and as well as other places, just like Elaine had mentioned, the other bridge. So, vital throughout the country. And corrosion can play a can seriously impact our bridges' integrity, posing risk to families and everybody else, our transportation of assets and equipment going through bridges every day. So it has a huge impact on what we're doing here as a country. So this legislation focuses on really protecting and making sure that the individuals that are working on these bridges are qualified individuals, and that they're qualified professionals that are working on these bridges to ensure essentially corrosion prevention work is being done and carried out correctly. So when we're going to the Advocacy Day and we're advocating for this bill as well as others, we're really advocating not just for safer bridges and resilient infrastructure, but we're really advocating for a safer environment and a better industry where everybody can gain interest, because it doesn't matter if you're all about bridge corrosion or from AMP, but anybody would be all about making sure that our bridges are safe to ride on.
Along those same lines, I know another piece of legislation that AMP is looking at is the Freedom to Invest in Tomorrow's Workforce Act, because honestly, we can have all the answers when it comes to the technologies, the materials, what certain assets need, but we can only go as far as the workers allow us to. And if there's a workforce shortage, if we don't have the workers needed to implement these technologies and these solutions, then it doesn't matter if we have all the right answers. There's going to be a ceiling that we can't overcome because of those workforce issues. So, with that in mind, how important is that to our industry? And why is it important not just to focus on, obviously the needs of the assets, but also how we can actually fulfill these projects by focusing on the workforce and overcoming some of those issues?
Well, I think you hit it right on the dot when, the Freedom Invest in Tomorrow's Workforce Act really like a shot in the arm for our industry's talent pool. Right. It's really helping to increase that workforce so that individuals can have better jobs and be permitted to work on different assets around the globe, not just here domestically in the United States. But, with the Tomorrow Workforce and Tomorrow's Workforce Act, it's really about permitting certain expenses associated with obtaining certifications and licensing to be treated as a qualified expense under, a 529 tax savings account. Typically, your 529 account has been used for college education, but this Workforce Act would allow individuals to go out and seek licensing and certifications and utilize those funds that are in that account. And this would be crucial to help, close the gaps in our workforce. So this is really helping to encourage individuals to go out and seek training, seek different certifications that will help jumpstart their career path and hopefully in corrosion management. So this is something that's really important to us and important to the economy of the United States, because this really helps grow our workforce.
Yeah, for sure. So, as far as communicating those themes and this messaging, one of the obvious challenges on the Hill these days is that we live in very politically divided times, and there aren't a lot of truly bipartisan issues. Corrosion control and the use of protective coatings to protect infrastructure, preserve assets, this potentially is one. And these days, you hear a lot, one of the few truly bipartisan issues is sustainability. There are so many processes, so many industries that are all seeking out sustainability, yet a lot of people on the Hill and just in our general population don't necessarily know where to begin. And so when we look at something like corrosion control, like the use of protective coatings, then if you're protecting, it can be water, wastewater, renewable energy, it can be assets in so many fields that, if utilized correctly, can contribute to sustainability. And that's the type of message I think that can resonate through a wide variety of audiences and potentially across the aisle, even in a landscape as divided as Washington, D.C. in 2024. So with that in mind, what's your message for how best practices, having the appropriate standards in corrosion control can make that happen? How do you simplify that message to where it resonates across the aisle and across, a wide spectrum of industries? It can be water, wastewater, renewable energy, and beyond. Just how do you simplify it to where you get the message of best practices, appropriate standards? That's something that a legislator should focus on, regardless of their political persuasion.
Yeah. So the quick message is that best practices and standards in corrosion control are, the sauce or the secret sauce that helps keep all of our assets, whether it's wastewater, renewable energy, whatever assets it may be, it keeps them humming along smoothly, right? It helps to increase their lifespan. It means fewer breakdowns, less money spent on repairs, and which creates a cleaner and greener future for everyone. So by following these practices and standards, we're really increasing the life of these assets. And that just means that, wind turbines, for example, will have less interruptions in energy production. This means that we're helping shield pipes and infrastructure in wastewater treatment plants from any kind of corrosion. So safeguarding the public health and the environment. So ultimately, using our best practices and standards are really a link to sustainability and really maintaining that and making sure that we're consistently managing our corrosion control to help assets stay around longer and have less environmental impact.
So beyond specific pieces of legislation, I know one opportunity you have over these 2 days in Washington, D.C., that goes beyond just simply supporting and talking up a proposed piece of legislation is to show support for our advocates in Congress and for our industry. For example, I know the DoD, the Department of Defense, they've got the Office of Corrosion Policy and Oversight, which is a huge resource for AMP, our members, and keeping that relationship humming and staying in touch with them is important on so many levels. Can you speak to the support of an agency, a program like that, and where that fits into the overall mission of Advocacy Day? Because again, it's not just about the legislation, it's also talking to our friends, our partners, our people on the Hill that, can assist in our mission. And so I know that's one example, right, of the type of group that you want to sort of restore that relationship, make sure we're on the same page to make sure that we're representing this industry as best we can moving forward, right?
Right. And so within the Department of Defense, there is an office called the Corrosion Policy and Oversight Office. And their sole responsibility is to really manage and look after the assets that our military uses. So there's several reasons why supporting the CPO, or the Corrosion Policy Oversight, is vital to us. First, we're ensuring that the military personnel is trained to utilize the best practices and standards that are out there for corrosion management, and to make sure that our military assets are ready when needed. So when they're needed, they're not needed repaired, and they're sitting out in the bunker and not being used for whatever reason. So we want to make sure that corrosion is not an issue on why they are not able to use these assets. But it also allows these practices to be taken and used on a global scale. Due to the reach from the Department of Defense, there's military assets all over the world. So this helps to expand our reach, our best, our standards and our best practices, and helps train individuals globally on what we're doing to help protect our military assets. So yeah, it's really important, not just to our military, but to everybody, and also on a global scale.
Elaine, I want to bring you in because beyond just specific pieces of legislation or groups such as the DoD's Office of Corrosion Policy and Oversight, there's really a wide range of things that the annual Advocacy Day tries to include. And this year, I know one point of emphasis is that PAC you referenced earlier, the Corrosion and Coatings Political Action Committee, which I know you're involved with from a leadership capacity. How does that work in tandem with this event? How does that PAC help increase these advocacy goals? And how can a member that's perhaps interested in taking part in Advocacy Day potentially show support and get involved with the PAC as well? I know, for example, the PAC was on the agenda at the annual conference and expo that AMP held in March. There were some discussions held there. I'm sure it'll come up even more when you're in DC, as any PAC typically does. How is that tied to this, and how can members show their support?
Well, thank you for bringing up that breakfast, because that was one point I was going to make. At our recent annual conference in New Orleans, we did have a PAC breakfast, and Congressman Troy Carter from Louisiana was the speaker there. And that is one of the ways that our members can show support, by attending events like that and getting a one-on-one opportunity to speak with a congressional leader. And he was just marvelously prepared by his staff. I was very, very impressed, so that he would understand who we were. And that's one of the key things for the PAC. We host events for both sides of the aisle, by the way. We are a nonpartisan group. So as I like to point out to all of them, corrosion is a nonpartisan issue that we all deal with. So our PAC wants to make champions on both the Senate side and the House side for our corrosion issues, because it's something that every one of their constituents is going to deal with at some level. So how do our members get involved? There are 19,000 of our members that are eligible to contribute to the PAC. The more contributions we have, the more events we can sponsor for our congressional leaders, and the more champions we can make, the more they will understand who we are and what those issues are, what they mean to us as individuals in the United States. I think in just a moment, someone else will speak about how we're looking at issues to make this a worldwide advocacy group. But from the U.S., we will be hosting something in Washington, D.C. during our legislative day by the PAC. Those are generally typically paid events for those that have contributed to the PAC. So, we are very encouraging for all of our members, whatever level and at whatever level they can contribute. It means that you are supportive of the efforts that we're making for our industry in Congress.
You segued very well to what's going to be my last topic, which is the new International Advocacy Program. Tim can speak to that. But before we get there, Tim, I want to let you follow up on Elaine's answer, because I think there's so many synergies between the Advocacy Day, the group that you usually bring to Washington for this event each spring. Well, the date sometimes shifts. This year it's in the spring, May 15th and 16th. But how does the PAC overlap with what you all do with the annual Advocacy Day? What are the synergies that when you're looking at sort of combining these interests? Obviously, there's a shared interest in terms of what you're hoping to accomplish. How do you all work together to, keep moving the ball forward on these important issues?
Thank you, Ben. First, let me just say thank you to Elaine. Her leadership with the PAC has been so great and so wonderful, and it's a pleasure to work with Elaine on how we're working and communicating our message with the PAC. So thank you, Elaine. Yeah, it's important for us to work alongside with Elaine and with the PAC, and it's important that we get those contributions from our members and individuals to help support activities that we're doing, not only on Advocacy Day, but other events throughout the United States. And the reason why it's important is because it really gives us an opportunity to get in front of our elected officials and really educate them on who AMP is and what we do, what we stand for, who our members are, and where our members exist within the United States. So it really gives us a little kick forward that a lot of people don't have, or a lot of groups don't have. It gives us the opportunity to really stay faced and make sure that we're interacting with individuals and elected officials, and really keeping abreast on different topics. So whenever we're trying to push any kind of legislation or the support for the Corrosion Prevention Policy Oversight Office, it's important because with the PAC we can utilize these events to make sure that we're introducing this information to those elected officials that are going and attending those events, but also to the members that are attending those events, and keeping them informed on what we're doing and how they can participate in future events.
Yeah. All right. Now the International Advocacy Program, which, as Elaine mentioned, is new this year. What is that specifically, Tim, and what opportunities do you see that bringing to global corrosion control efforts?
Yeah, thank you. So this is something that I'm very excited about, passionate about. The International Advocacy Program really gives an opportunity for our global members to really participate more on engaging with our stakeholders around the globe, not just in the United States, but around the globe, to help facilitate knowledge exchange and collaboration efforts, as well as different advocacy needs that they may have in their home countries or home regions. So in particular with our upcoming Advocacy Day on May 15th and 16th, this allows our international members to partake and take part with different meetings with agencies and regulatory bodies to really help educate them on what issues that are important to them, and maybe some of the work that these agencies doing on a global scale on how that may impact their region or their home country. So it gives us the opportunity to have international members more involved, to develop networking and foster communication and collaboration, but really to get involved with our agencies here in the United States that have a footprint in their country, that do work in their country, and that can help implement different things in regards of corrosion control in their country. So that way they can partner up with these groups and work with those groups to help advocate the needs in their country with their government and their elected officials. So ultimately, this program is really all about empowering our international members to give them a platform to educate, to share, to collaborate, and more importantly, to advocate for corrosion awareness globally.
All right, so let's bring it full circle. I want to allow each of you to make your elevator pitch, if you will, to someone in 30 to 60 seconds that might be on the fence about attending this event and getting involved with the association at that level. Why is this the right time? Why is this the right event to take that extra step and to really get involved? Kimberly, we can start with you. What's your sales pitch for why this is the time, the year for a member listening or watching to get involved at that level?
Thank you so much, Ben, and thank you for the team here. This is the time that as mentioned earlier, about mentoring and succession and passing the baton to individuals that may not have been involved or even elevated at a level of a leadership. You don't have to be a leader. One thing I really love about it is when we're partnered with our teams, you're partnered with someone who's been there before. So don't be threatened or intimidated by coming to Washington and think you're going to be on your own, because you won't. There's a team of us that we all work together. We support each other. When we have the meetings, we have a chance to help out each other during their discussions with their respective representatives. It's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity, as I mentioned earlier, to sit down with your local congressmen, women, and just have a chance to talk about what we do. Because what we do, as I mentioned, is so key to protecting the environment, the quality of life, sustainability, and this is your opportunity to contribute to that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Elaine, same question to you.
Well, mine is more of a challenge that I would give to them. I would say that if you know the problems, you know what the problems are, so don't just complain about the problems, be part of the solution. And this is your opportunity to talk to those that can help you be part of that can be that solution. So that would be my first pitch to someone. If you want to be, tell them about the problems and be part of the solution to those problems.
Yeah, and I'll probably just build up on what they both said. Oftentimes we sit back and we go and we talk to ourselves in our head and we say, man, if they just did this, or if somebody would just hear me out and I can make this better. Well, here's your opportunity. Here's your opportunity to go out and meet with your elected official and share your story. Share your personal story. Share what's happened to you, what's impacting, what's going on in our industry that's impacting you. And there's a lot of different legislation that's going on, some that we discussed today, but others that are going to be impacting you. Or there's legislation on what's qualified as a contractor. There's tax legislation. There's a lot of stuff that's going on that may be impacting you. And this is your opportunity to go in front of an elected official and their staffers and share your story and tell them how it impacts you and what you think should be done about it. So to Kimberly Joy's point, we will make sure that you are fully prepared to go into these meetings. We're going to give you information. We give you packets. We host trainings via webinar. We also do in-person training. So we're going to make sure that you're fully aware of everything that's going on. We make sure you're fully prepared, and we're going to give you all the tools in order to be successful. Because ultimately, we're really trying to be there as a team. We're a family. We're trying to go in there with a cause, and we want to make sure that everybody has a great time and an opportunity to do what they do and share their story.
As a parting shot, if you could just give us a little bit of an example. I know the full agenda isn't set yet, but just give us an example of what the itinerary might look like, i.e., a few things you do on that first day, what you do on the second day, just generally speaking, what it's like, that experience when a member is actually there. And then secondly, as you close out, just remind people where they can go to learn more on the website and potentially take that final step of registering.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. So it's a 2-day event. The first day, we get everybody arriving, we get everybody situated, and then we kind of get everybody together and we do another quick training scenario, answer any questions that people may have that were not addressed, or anybody that was able to attend any of our trainings, we work on them one-on-one. And then we set you up in groups. And these groups are designated typically by your location and your zip code, or individuals that are sharing the same elected officials. And so we get you together in groups. We're going to allow you time to network with your group, kind of get an understanding of who's who's representing what's important to them. And that way y'all can go through your list of meetings that you're going to have potentially the next day, and how and who's going to take that lead. Because each elected official is going to have be involved in a different committee, have different reasons what they're pertaining to. And so there's going to be a need for different individuals to talk at those different meetings. So, and then we're going to follow up with a dinner. There'll be more of a networking reception, so you can get to understand everybody that's involved and why they're involved. And that's the first day. The second day, you're going to get put in your groups. We're going to take a group picture in front of the Capitol, and we're going to send you off in your group. We're going to give you an itinerary. It's going to tell you who you're going to meet with, the room you're going to meet them in. It's going to give you directions and maps. It'll give you times, and we're off on our way. We're going to have a group leader or a coordinator in each team, and they will help coordinate everything where you're supposed to be. Last year, we averaged right around 7 to 8 meetings per group. So it's quite a busy day. Everybody's running around, but everybody has phone numbers and contacts, so we can reach out and make sure nobody gets lost and everybody stays on course. So it's a great time, and we're giving you a packet, and the packet will have a lot of sources and information in there for you. But you can find all this information on our website at the Government Affairs tab. If you click on amp.org and you go on the About section, it'll show the government section. If you click in there, it'll give you all the information you need. You can also register for the event there, and it'll give you some information on the legislation that we're focusing on and different policy agendas that we're wanting to push. But I encourage everybody, you can also send me an email at tim.gonzalez, GONZALEZ @amp.org, or you can call me or text me at 281-793-1193, and I'll be happy to discuss with you any opportunities or any issues or concerns that you may have. And I hope to see everybody at our AMP Advocacy Day on May 15th and 16th.
Sounds good. All right, that's where we will bring this episode to a close. I want to thank our distinguished panel for taking the time. Tim Gonzalez, Kimberly Joy Harris, and Elaine Bowman. Appreciate you all so much for stopping by. And I think you provided a wealth of information to our viewers, our listeners, our members that hopefully many of them will take advantage of as they consider going to the Hill this May to take part in the 2024 AMP Advocacy Day. All right, with those plugs complete, we will adjourn. Tim mentioned where you can find more information on the AMP website about registering or learning more about Advocacy Day. Beyond that, if you just want general resources from the association or its publications, amp.org, ampp.org, coatingsformag.com for Coatings for Magazine, and materialsperformance.com for Materials Performance Magazine. Kimberly, I saw your hand up. Anything else you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just want to quickly say that at the end of the day, it is a very rewarding experience, and we have so much fun. So I just want to make sure I convey that, because it is a great process in the country that we live in, that we can have this experience, and it is so much fun, and it's very rewarding. Thank you for letting me get that in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's an important message. As much as it is about business and about the industry and about more important things, it's fun as well. Like, there's some things that you personally will take out of it just in terms of enjoying your time there. And I think many people will find it fulfilling and rewarding in terms of what the contributions are to the world at large that we live in. And of course, want to keep happy and prosperous for as long as we reasonably can. And of course, materials protection and performance is a huge part of that mission. All right, I think that's an appropriate place to stop. Great parting words from Kimberly Joy Harris. For Tim, Kimberly, and Elaine, I'm Ben Dubose. As always, we appreciate you, our listeners, so much for tuning in. And please come back soon for another new AMP podcast.